You are now onto our App of the Week segment. This is where we demonstrate an app showing you whether or not it has accessibility issues or not. Should you have an app that you would like us to feature on one of our episodes, feel free to send such an app to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. And now, here's this episode's App of the Week. Hi, Warren Carr here for Blind Android Users Podcast, and for episode 159 App of the Week, this is demonstrating a note-taking app called Noto, N-O-T-O. El Noto, just to put a little Espanol in there to be fair. For today's demonstration, I'll be using my Pixel 8 Pro, running Android 14 and TalkBack 14.1. In the way of a TTS engine, I'm using the multilingual TTS engine, which utilizes the Google Speech Services. I do want to apologize here in advance because you may hear some honking going on because we have the Christmas light parade going on in my little town where we have a lot of decorated trucks going by. They've gone past my street quite a while ago, but I can still hear those honks now and then out there. And now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and show you how to use Noto. Again, I do want to mention here in passing that Noto is a note-taking app. This is totally something that can be used offline, has no need for accessing the internet. It's just locally on your device. And besides, it has no ads, and that's all that there is to this app. It's also an open source app and can also be found on GitHub. Let's now go ahead and navigate to Noto, and I have it sitting right here on the home screen.
Noto.
Here's Noto. I'll tap to activate.
Noto. Noto. Allow Noto to send you notifications. Allow button.
The first thing we heard is to allow Noto, or whether or not we want to allow it to send us notifications. I'm notorious for not letting things send me notifications. And so for me, though, I'm going to tap on Do Not Allow It. Now, if you want to be seeing notifications at your end, go ahead and tap to allow the seeing of notifications from Noto. I'll tap on Do Not Allow.
Don't allow button.
There we go. I tap.
Noto. 0 folders.
We are now in the menu eye of the app, and the first thing we heard is 0 folders. I do want to mention here that though toward the half part of the phone, just starting from the left, you're going to see some folders and all of that. Those are pre-made folders, but I have no folders of my own, therefore I have 0 folders. To the right edge of the phone, just above those folders, we do have some buttons that, starting from the left going to the right, and I'm talking about starting from the middle of the phone. It's not like on the left edge, but the middle of the phone and going to the right edge. We've got some buttons here that I want to show you before we proceed from here. Here are the little buttons that we got.
Folders view button.
We have one called Folders View, and then to the right of that,
Settings button.
we have Settings. And the last and third item to the right is More Options.
More options button.
Before we come back to these buttons to see what the settings is all about or what the more options is all about, let's though look at what those are the folders, the pre-made folders that we have that I talked about earlier. And so starting from the left in the middle of the phone, here's what we got.
All notes, all, 0, in list.
It says all notes, all 0. And to the right of that, these are arranged left and right.
All notes, recent, 0.
All notes recent, 0. Then below the all notes, we got
All notes, scheduled, 0.
and then going to the right of that.
All notes, archive, 0.
And the last column starting from the left.
General, 0.
And that's all we have there. Now at the very bottom right corner of the phone, we have a button that simply says
Create folder button, out of list.
create a folder. So if I wanted to create a folder, for example, and I want to call it maybe blind Android users or whatever it is, let's just go ahead and do that. But before we do that though, let's go back up to the top and look at those three buttons that I talked about earlier. That is the folders view, settings, and the more options buttons that we saw earlier above these folders. Let's start though with the folder view.
Folders view button.
Here is folders view. If I tap,
Noto, folders view.
when you tap on folders view, then toward the bottom of the phone, it pops up a little menu. And here's what we got.
Sorting, creation date.
We have the first thing, sorting, and by default is creation date. If you tap here though, you could go choose on how you want to sort this. You notice though that it reads it twice for some reason. So that's one of the pitfalls of this app if it doesn't bother you. Next.
Ordering, descending.
And then we hear the ordering, and by default is descending. And moving on.
Apply button.
At the bottom of the phone is an apply button. That's if you've chosen anything at all, then you tap the apply to apply the choices you've just made. That's the last item here. I'm going to go back.
Noto, folders view button.
Next, let's move on to the settings, which is to the right of the folders view, and I'll move my finger to the right.
Settings button.
Here is settings, and we tap to activate settings.
Noto, back button.
Tapping on settings, the first thing we heard was back button found at the top left corner of the phone, and moving my finger down, here's what we encounter.
Settings.
I hear settings, move my finger down again.
General.
It says general, and it says it twice. Now, if I tap in here though, I'll probably see some things in here. Let's go ahead and tap.
Back button.
Tapping on general, we heard back button. Now moving my finger down.
General.
That's the header.
Main interface, all folders. The first screen displayed when launching the app.
And moving down.
Quick note folder, general. The default folder when saving a note using quick note, text selection option.
Next.
Theme, follow system plus dark.
I'm not going to go into all of these things, but simply just going through them so you can hear what they are all about. Because if I decide to go into each and every one of these, it's going to take us a long time. So let's just go down the list.
Language, follow system.
Next.
Icon, futuristic.
Next.
Show notes count, whether to display the count of notes in the folder's dialog.
Next.
Remember scrolling position, whether to store the scrolling position in folders and notes.
So in other words, if you wanted to remember where you left while you are reading something or where you've scrolled to, by default, these things have check marks or switches to the right of them for some reason. Of course, the screen reader is not reading those, but you can just play with it to see what you see or what you get. Next.
Quick exit, whether to exit the app immediately when pressing the back button.
Next.
Notes font, Noto default.
If you don't like that, you could tap there to go change it. Next.
Continuous search, whether to pass the search term to the note screen.
So continuous search, I think what that means is that if I'm searching something in a particular note for a particular word, and if I wanted it to affect other notes that I have, I think that's what that is. Next.
Preview auto scroll, whether to enable auto scroll for notes in preview mode.
And that's the last item here. Now I'm going to go back.
Back button.
I'm back to the previous screen where we tapped on General. Now below General, we've got
Reading mode.
We have the reading mode. Next.
Vault.
So in other words, this is an area where you can go in and set up the vault. That is an area where you want to put personal or secret stuff that you don't want anyone to see, you could go in here and set a password or create a vault for such things. Next,
Export import data. Export import data.
you could export or import data. Next,
Share Noto with others. Share Noto with others.
share Noto with others.
Rate Noto on Play Store. Rate Noto on Play Store.
You can rate it on the Play Store.
What's new? What's new?
What's new? Next,
Report an issue. Report an issue.
and
About.
about
Support Noto. Support Noto.
and support Noto. Now let's go back to the previous screen.
General. 0 notes.
I hit the back button and it places us in the general. And I do want to mention here in passing that when that happens, you have some buttons at the bottom here to the bottom left. You've got
Folders. Button.
folders. And if you tap on that folders, then it takes us back to the main UI where we saw the buttons that we're working on. That is the folders view, settings, and the last one that we're going to look at, which is the more options. Now, while we're still here, to the right of that is the create note.
Create note. Button.
Create note, and to the right of that,
General archive. Button.
general archive.
Search. Button.
Search to the right of that, and the last button
Folder options. Button.
is folder options. Now, I'll tap on
Folders. Button.
folders on the bottom left.
Noto. 0 folders.
So I'm back to that screen where we tapped on the settings, and now to the right edge of the phone there, to the right of the settings, is the last button, which will be the more options.
More options. Button.
Tapping on more options.
Noto. Folders vault.
The first thing again we heard is folders vault, and moving to the right of it,
Folders archive.
folders archive.
Settings.
We hear settings again. That's all that we have here. Now, if we tap on that settings, it'll take us to the settings that we were in earlier. So I'm not going to tap on settings again. I'll go back.
Noto. Folders. Button.
Now, understand that as I went back, we are back on folders again. So I'm in that area where we have those buttons, folders, create, note, search, folders, options, and things like that. Let's go ahead though and tap on create note, and that's at the bottom there in the middle.
Create note. Button.
And I tap.
Body. General. 0 words.
Tapping on it, it says in the body, and it says
Showing
0
English
words.
US QWERTY.
And of course, pops up my keyboard at the bottom of the screen. Putting my finger
Access
down,
created just now.
it says created just now.
Body. Edit box. Editing.
The body is editing, and I'm going to move my finger to the left to get to the title.
Title. Edit box.
I'm going to tap here to create a title,
Title.
and I'll dictate something using the assistant.
Assistant voice typing.
NOTO first test. Next. Hello, comma. This is a test using an app called NOTO, period, new paragraph. I am demonstrating this for the Blind Android Users Podcast, period, new paragraph. This concludes the testing of the NOTO note-taking app, period. Stop.
Voice typing stopped.
So I just dictated the title, and then I told it to move to the next, which moved me to the body of the note. And now I'm going to double check those to make sure that indeed what I dictated is in there. So I'll put my finger near the top.
General. 32 words.
It says I had 32 words. Move my finger down.
Create label. Button. In list.
There's something called create label. I could tap here to create a label. So if I want to call it blind Android users or whatever, I'll give it that label. Now move my finger down.
Noto first test, edit box, title, out of list.
There we have our title, Noto First Test, and moving my finger down to the body.
Hello, this is a test using an app called Noto. I am demonstrating this for the Blind Android Users podcast. This concludes the testing of the Noto Note-taking app. Edit box, editing, body.
I think it missed one word in there. Instead of note, I heard the word not. Anyway, but that's how it works. Now, I'm going to see if this thing allows me to either read character by character, line by line, basically using the granularity and editing. For example, I want to correct that word not to note.
Links,
I swipe up and
Controls.
down again.
headings,
Headings,
paragraphs,
lines. I'm going to swipe up.
This concludes the testing of the Noto Note-taking app.
Okay, I'm going to change to words.
Words. This concludes the testing of the Noto Not.
All right, now I'm going to change here. I'm going to put letter E at the end here, I believe, because I'm at the end of this word N-O-T. It should be N-O-T-E.
E.
All right, I'm going to try to.
Hello, this is a note.
There we go.
Noto. Noto. Note.
There we go. I just corrected that. And that's a quick overview of the Noto, N-O-T-O, note-taking app, L Noto. Thanks for listening.